Virtuell verklighet är jättestort på marknaden idag och inte minst här i Las Vegas på CES. Och vi har fått en chans att ta en pratstund med HTC som satsar stenhårt på VR-marknaden.
Nordichardwares och prisjaktsbevakning av CES 2016 presenteras i samarbete med Huawei och Cyberfoto.
Ja, här sitter jag i en svit Las Vegas och har fått en trevlig pratstund med Drew Bamford på HTC som jobbar med deras VR-headset HTC Vive. Och vi tänkte ta en pratstund här och höra vad Drew och HTC faktiskt tycker och tänker om VR och givetvis deras eget headset HTC Vive. So, Drew, hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem, thanks for being here. Could you present yourself to our Swedish viewers and tell me what you do at HTC?
Absolutely. I'm Drew Bamford. I run HTC Creative Labs, where we're doing software experiences that run across all of the HTC products, from phones to wearables to virtual reality headsets.
Cool, and I guess your point of expertise here at the HTC at CES is the HTC Vive. That's the focus product here.
That's one of them. We also announced some wearables today with Under Armour. So
Okay,
a couple
cool.
of new products on the horizon.
Cool. If we're gonna focus, we're talking a lot about VR, and a lot of our viewers are really interested in the technology. Can you tell us a bit more about how and why HTC jumped into this market and how that came to
Right.
happen?
Well, HTC has a long history of innovation. We've always been an innovator, and previously we've actually made some transformations from laptops in the very beginning to ODM manufacturer of smartphones to branded builder of smartphones. And so it was actually a pretty, it seems surprising perhaps, but it's actually a natural progression for HTC to be on the cutting edge of interactive products and smart products.
Right. What do you think is the most important part about VR, and do you see this as something that we have been just waiting to happen, and is it technology now? It's ready? Or?
I think so. I mean, people have been waiting for this for a long time, I think, right? It's been imagined in fiction. Everybody who reads cyberpunk novels has been thinking about VR for 20 years at least. But I think, like you said, we're at a point where the technologies have come together in a way that it's actually a compelling consumer experience now. So we feel like we're really riding a wave, and it's super exciting for my team of designers and technologists at HTC, because it feels a little bit like 2006 was in the smartphone world, right? It's the beginning of something new, and there's so much potential and so much creative territory to explore that it's kind of like the Wild West, right? There's a lot going on. The technology is advancing at a super fast rate, and nobody has the answers. So there's a lot of room to come up with new things.
Cool. Talking about technology advancing and new things, prior to CES, you made a statement that, guys, we found something new here that we would like to incorporate in our HTC Vive headsets. Can you tell us a bit more about this new feature?
Right. So one of the new features of the Vive Pre, which we've just announced, is a front-facing camera. And this is a camera that's actually used to help people feel comfortable walking around the physical environment, because one of the key features of the Vive is our room scale tracking, which allows you to roam around a large area, say 5 meters square area in your space, and get that real immersion that's not available with other VR systems. But to make people feel comfortable in that environment, they need to know where the physical boundaries are of the room. So previously we had something called the chaperone, which showed a kind of grid when you got near a wall, for example. With the new front-facing camera, you'll actually see a kind of outlined view of physical objects in the environment. So you get a better, a more accurate picture of what's actually surrounding you in the space, which prevents you from running into walls, for example, but also can allow you to pick up your coffee while you're in the middle of a game.
Yeah, so you don't have to put off the headset.
Right, because actually one of our key design goals is to keep people in VR. Yeah. We think people are going to want to immerse themselves in VR and not have to break presence by constantly removing the headset. So anything we can do to keep people comfortable in the space and immersed in VR is good for us.
Right. And space. I've been testing the Vive before. I'm looking forward to testing the new model. One thing that we of course, have discussed is you need space. You need space to move around, and now you have the front-facing camera, of course. But can you see this as being a problem that? Do we need to find some solution to this? Do you need a big living room?
I mean, of course, more space is good because it allows you to roam more freely around the environment. But you can use most experiences in a space that's smaller than 5 meters. And in fact, one of the things we're doing is working with our content development partners to find ways to scale experiences so that you can have an experience in a 15 by 15 foot room, or you can have a seated experience and find ways to navigate without having to walk. So, for example, a lot of developers are experimenting with teleportation as a way to move around a virtual space without having to walk around a physical space. So as long as the developer designs the content in such a way that it's flexible, I don't think it will be a problem.
Sounds interesting. Would it actually be possible maybe for a game to have like 2 different playing modes? So you have like one where you're more stationary?
It can, and in fact, ideally, the game can automatically flex to the size of your what we call the play area. So when you set up your boundaries of your environment, the system knows how big the space is, and ideally the game will scale to accommodate that space.
Okay, but is that something that's coming, or do we have that technology now?
It's possible now, so we'll see how developers innovate within that technological framework.
Cool. The HTC Vive will be available in stores or for pre-order at least in April?
Pre-order in February, I believe, and available in April.
Right. Looking at the VR technology in itself, now you've managed to get the front-facing camera, making that a feature. What would be the next biggest and most important step technology-wise in your mind?
With the new release of the Pre?
And with the actually next generation, maybe looking one step further.
I can't reveal too much about the next generation, but of course we're always working on cool ways to improve the product experience, both hardware and software. So you'll see between the Vive Pre and the consumer launch, you'll see all sorts of improvements, both hardware and software experience, to make it even more compelling, exciting, and easier to use. Okay,
cool. In your mind, what would be the most interesting usage area for VR looking at this generation? I mean, we have games, we have entertainment. I've been thinking a lot about theme parks and stuff.
Theme parks are fantastic, and we've spoken with a number of theme park operators. They're really excited about it.
Yeah, because then you have the space that you can do more or less what you want.
Absolutely. We think kind of site-specific VR installations are actually really interesting. Museums and theme parks are both good venues for that. You know, we've even looked at fitness centers or health clubs, you know, as an interesting venue for kind of installed VR equipment. But I mean, really the cool thing about VR right now is that the possibilities are so limitless. And so of course, our partner Valve is doing an amazing job working with the game development community to enable all sorts of game content. We have the opportunity to work with a number of other kinds of partners. Everybody from we've actually invested in a company called Surgical Theater that's doing pre-visualization of cancerous tumors in VR for surgeons. We're working with Dassault in France on 3D CAD tools that are enabled in VR. We're working on some educational concepts. So there's such a huge range of content that's possible. That's what kind of makes this product so exciting. It's like a blank canvas for designers and developers.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about designers and developers, we've heard a lot of talk about looking at games, but also entertainment, that this is a product that can actually more or less scare you half to death or to death.
If you wanted to, it certainly can, yes.
Yeah, we discussed it. We don't want to play like Resident Evil and stuff with VR. I mean, how do you guys tackle that? It could actually be a health issue, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, we're of course very concerned with the health and safety of our customers, both physical and emotional and mental. And so we're working with our content partners to ensure that content that we ship with Vive is a good experience for people. And I think, you know, of course, some people want to be scared, so some of the content will be scary. But I think what's important is that what the content will be like before they get into VR, and that they have an easy way to get out of VR. You know, and that's one of the cool things about the front-facing camera is it makes it very easy to sort of pop out of VR if you're having a scary moment.
True. If we'd like to wrap up, I would like to ask you a question that's actually directed more or less to our viewers. What would you say is talking to our audience, why would someone invest in VR and try this technology in 2016? What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, for me, VR is really a revolution in experience of digital content. And it's a huge step change over anything that I've seen in years. And I've been in this business for 20 years, designing technology products. So I think for somebody who's passionate about digital content and experiences, there's no way to avoid VR at this point. It is the next big thing. You kind of have to jump into it.
Okay. Thank you, Drew.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking time.
Thanks for having me.
Världens största elektronikmässa CES slår snart upp sina dörrar och vi har kikat in i myllret här på deras öppningsevent CES Unveiled.